Good evening, councillors and members of the public. I stand to open the ordinary council meeting on the 12th of December 2023 at 6:07 p.m. I will now call on Councillor Chappell to read the acknowledgement of country.
I'd like to acknowledge we're meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people here today.
I'll now call on Councillor Said to read the prayer.
Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia. Amen.
Thank you. Are there any apologies?
An apology from Councillor Hamilton.
From Councillor Hamilton. Are there any calls for leave of absence? I've received a request from Councillor Parker and Councillor... Oh, sorry. Not a leave of absence, just an apology. Moved by Councillor Hay. Seconded by Councillor Rosenfeld. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. I've received requests from Councillor Parker and Councillor McCafferty to attend tonight's meeting by audio-visual link. Can I please have someone move a motion as follows, that the request by Councillors Parker and McCafferty to attend the ordinary meeting of Council 12th of December 2023 by audio-visual link be approved, and that it be noted that councillors Parker and McCafferty are unable to attend in person for personal reasons and work commitments. Moved by Councillor Burst, seconded by Councillor Luxford. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We now move to the confirmation of the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting 28th of November 2023. Can I have someone move and second the minutes? Moved by Councillor Chappell, seconded by Councillor Said.
Sorry. Just on that, Councillor Hamilton, while we're moving the minutes of the 30th of October meeting, could we note that one of the matters in that was deferred to arbitration, so we are not, not arbitration. One of the points in the minutes on the 30th of October has been sent for adjudication to a third party.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. I will put that to Mr. David Kelly.
Through you, Madam Chair, we've looked into the background of the matter. I can confirm it was a valid declaration by Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Councillor Hay can note that both Councillors Parker and Hamilton were emailed, as was I. Thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chappell, seconded. Councillor Said. Was in favour? Was against? I declare that carried. We now move to the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on Tuesday the 28th of November 2023. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded Councillor Burst. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Councillors, are there any declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests? Councillor Chappell.
Thanks. Non-significant non-pecuniary interest in item MM6523 as the person, the subject of the motion, was a former teammate at the UTS Bats. Go Bats.
Councillor Hay.
I would like to declare a significant non-pecuniary interest in item CP51 as one of the appointees in point B is known to me. I will not be voting or participating in the debate.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Mayor. It's non-significant, non-pecuniary, but I might need to get confirmation from the General Manager regarding this matter. I'm a patron of the Randwick Arts Society, and I didn't know until looking at the business paper that Mark England, who's the president of the Randwick Arts Society, will be speaking. I'm not sure whether it's all right for me to be in the room while this matter is being discussed.
Councillor Nielsen, I believe it is up to councillors to manage their own conflict, so I will leave it at your discretion.
So I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah. Councillors, are there any further declarations?
Madam Mayor?
Oh, apologies, Councillor Parker. Yes.
Thank you. I have a declaration in relation to NM 84/23, Councillor Chapel Shark Management surveys. It is a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. I'm employed in the Attorney General's office in the New South Wales Government. I've had no involvement in this matter. As such, I will be participating.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Are there any further declarations? Thank you. I'll now move to the Chairperson's announcement and privacy warning. In respect to the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of Clause 5.2 to 5.23 of the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio-video recording of meetings is prohibited without permission. A person may be expelled from a meeting for using or having used an audio-video recorder without the express authority of the Council. So for members in the gallery today, you're not permitted to take photos or record this meeting or broadcast this meeting via social media channels. If someone does see you, you will be asked to move out of the meeting. While we're about to move to the speakers, here's a very emotional issue for many people that we'll be discussing tonight. I would really respectfully request that every speaker is listened to in silence. We have a very large number of members in the gallery tonight. To conduct the meeting in an orderly manner, I'd very much ask everyone to hear the speakers in silence. Anyone who interjects will be kindly requested to leave the meeting. You can go into the foyer and listen in to the meeting via the audio-visual link. So just to maintain some kind of respectful engagement in this discussion, I would very respectfully request that of the members of the gallery and of councillors. Thank you. So we will now, all members of the public addressing tonight's meeting have a maximum of 4 minutes in which to put their case forward. We will try not to allow extensions. We will pause if I have to pause the meeting at any time, and the timer will pause. Presenters will be stopped when the 4 minutes has expired. Councillors may ask questions of presenters at the end of each public submission. The first speaker is speaking in relation to NM 86/23, motion pursuant to notice of motion from Councillor Pandolfini on Sandgate Cottage. Speaking for Mr. Mark England, representing the Randwick Art Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name is Mark England. I'm President of the Randwick Art Society. And on behalf of the Randwick Art Society, I pay my respects to the elders past, present and future on whose unceded land we live, and Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm a long-time resident of Randwick City, and I'd like to thank the councillors and council for the opportunity to speak to this proposal. I wish to particularly acknowledge Mayor Philippa Veach and Councillor Raffaella Pandolfini for the work they've done in bringing the proposal to this point. I also acknowledge our RAS patron, Councillor Kathy Nielsen, and our founding patron, previous Deputy Mayor, Councillor Margaret Woodsmith, who gives her apologies. Just yesterday morning, this motion was discussed with RAS members at a general meeting. It was unanimously and excitedly endorsed by all present. RAS currently has 110 members, young and old, producing art and craft works for personal enjoyment, exhibition and sale. We are a community of painters, drawers, sculptors, muralists, photographers, jewellers, fabric artisans, coming from a wide range of backgrounds, all with the same purpose. We serve to build, enhance and promote a Randwick arts culture. Some of you may recall that at the last annual exhibition at Little Bay, where Councillor Dylan Parker officiated, in addition to art and craft, RAS provided entertainment in the live art forms of poetry and music. We aim to promote and encourage all local art forms. Our current premises are at the Randwick Literary Institute and a room in the Prince Henry complex. Both premises are relatively remote and so do not offer a real opportunity to promote and sell our artistic and artisan outputs. For too long, we have occupied these out-of-the-way locations. Now, Sandgate Cottage is a beautiful historic building, and the associated Junmore Place, a lovely place leading up to the building itself, stand in stark and wondrous contrast to our current locations. The cottage bears a proud history befitting of our Randwick Art Society. By occupying this cottage and place, RAS would experience far more foot traffic as a means to sell our items. Our members have the capacity to produce to meet a high demand, especially at times of the year like this, when customers are searching for that special something. The ease of transportation to Sandgate will be a boon to many of our members who may have limited transportation means. When the Randwick Historic Society first came to Sandgate Cottage, I'm informed that it had some 100 members. In a relatively short time, it grew to 300 members due to passing traffic. RAS similarly has 110 members, and I'm sure many others would like to join. We already have the depth of talent and interest to manage a shop, studio, exhibition space, storeroom and teaching facilities. Other regional facilities in Australia foster the arts by providing facilities to local art societies such as ours. And I give an example of Blackwall in Queensland that I recently visited with a population of some 1,200. It provides a large Main Street gallery and a building complex for art and craft work. Nelson Bay in New South Wales has dedicated an old hospital to its arts and crafts, to name a few. Closer to and in Sydney, we have many other fine examples. Randwick Arts Society fully supports this motion and would be very grateful party to its formulation. Thank you.
Councillor Pandolfini.
Thanks for coming in, Mark. I know it's very early days. Just to be clear, this is just a motion to look at getting Sandgate back in our, being run by council. Considering that, I guess I was just wondered if you could speak a little bit on the significance of having Sandgate back in council's control, and also maybe just more to the lack of space for artists in general around. You mentioned that you're in out of the way. You've all been practicing in out of the way spaces, and what that means for you.
Sure. To have a central space where artists get together and practice is really important for artists. Many artists actually work off the companionship of others that they're working with and learn from each other as well. Of course, as we look back in history at art, so many famous movements in art began and were founded from groups of people coming together and working together and sharing knowledge. And this could certainly be a far greater possibility in Randwick if we had a central space that people can get to. This location is incredibly historic for Randwick. I understand that it was a Mr. Pearce who built the cottage, the founder of Randwick. I understand, built a road through to Coogee. This is a wonderful opportunity to join with the history of Randwick and to add to the future of our culture and our arts and entertainment in a very positive and way of that's community building and enhancing. We have 110 artists in the Randwick Arts Society, and that could certainly grow. Art is a very important outlet for so many people, a means of expressing their creativity, finding peace, well-being and joy in their lives. And it's certainly a wonderful way for people to feel a part of their community and a part of Randwick. Now, in terms of space, of course, artists need space because very often it's a physical product that's being created, whether it be as large as sculpture or as small as a miniature. And this space that could be afforded by a location such as Sandgate would be critical to encouraging the arts in the area, really. So they're just a few comments off the top of my head. Thank you, Councillor.
If there are no further questions, thank you, Mr. England. Thank you very much.
That's it. Thank you.
We'll now move to the next item. Speakers on the next item, NM 87/23, motion pursuant to notice of motion from Councillor Pandolfini, call for permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Speaking against, Mr. Grant Levitas.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. I note with disgust Councillor Pandolfini's retweeting last Thursday, celebrating a man who tweeted with or without baking soda when referring to an Israeli baby being burnt to death in an oven. Peace is the ultimate desire, and every innocent life lost is tragic. But instead of calling for a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire, you should be calling for Hamas to fully surrender and release the remaining 137 hostages immediately. And call for a permanent ceasefire on anti-Semitism. 2 months ago, 1,200 innocent Israelis were indiscriminately murdered, burnt, beheaded, mutilated, and raped. These rapes were committed on women, girls, boys, and men as a weapon of war. The motion equates 25,000 tons of explosives dropped on Gaza to 2 atomic bombs. 25,000-ton bombs dropped on Japan resulted in 214,000 deaths. 40% of the population was wiped out. Equivalent bombs have been dropped on Syria, killing hundreds and thousands of their own people. Have you ever called to condemn the real genocide happening in Syria, Pakistan, Yemen, or to the Chinese Muslim Uyghur population? Hamas terrorists cannot be trusted or believed, so their over-exaggeration number of 18,000 deaths represent less than 1 death per ton of bomb. This is not genocidal, so to parrot their propaganda is misguided and naive. Israel makes painstaking efforts to minimize civilian deaths with multiple warnings, dropping leaflets, thousands of calls, millions of text messages, roof knocks, and drone announcements to create safe passage and areas. These two events can simply not be equated. A few facts about Hamas terrorists. They indiscriminately target civilians, having launched over 11,000 rockets since October 7, destroying Israeli kindergartens, hospitals, and homes, which you failed to include in this motion as a war crime. Broke the ceasefire by launching rockets, did not release hostages as per agreement, and rockets continue to rain down on Israel. Their murderous intent is public knowledge, dating back to 1987 to obliterate Israel and kill every Jew worldwide. They fight in civilian clothing and hide in tunnels which are not available to protect ordinary Gazans, while their billionaire leaders live in Qatar and Turkey in luxury. Video evidence shows Hamas beating their own people, stealing aid and shooting them. Launch rockets from hospitals, schools and mosques which lose protection status under Geneva Convention Article 19. They failed to release the number of combatants or terrorists killed, but approximately 5,000 out of the 18,000 have been eliminated in 56 days. 56 days of Hamas would have seen hundreds and thousands of deaths of innocent Israeli Arabs, Christians, LGBTIQs would have been beheaded for their choice, and Jews. But I doubt the author of this motion would condemn the killing of Jews based on her federal deputy leader standing with the school student holding a poster endorsing Jews to be disposed of in a bin. This is genocidal intent. No mention of the 137 hostages still being held and brutalized, 17 of which are women aged between 18 and 39, an omission which is disgracefully ignorant or, more worryingly, intentional. Judaism is the second biggest religion in Randwick Council, home to the 3rd biggest Jewish population in New South Wales. So focus on your elected mandate of unifying local community instead of divisive international politics you know nothing about. A premature ceasefire would leave Hamas in control of Gaza, denying Palestinians and Israelis lasting peace, something that Israel...
Yes.
A premature ceasefire would leave Hamas in control of Gaza, denying Palestinians and Israelis lasting peace, something that Israel has offered on at least 5 occasions since 1948, including East Jerusalem as their capital. Using the Greens' shared colours and ideology with Hamas as an analogy, giving the
Madam Mayor, but
giving the green light to a ceasefire.
sorry,
You
yes,
said no
but
interruptions.
there has been...
I'm sorry.
I would ask...
Giving the green light.
Excuse me, I would ask the Speaker to refrain from making comments such as the one you have just made.
Using the Greens' shared colours with Hamas
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
as an
That's
analogy.
completely inappropriate.
Giving the green light to a ceasefire now will
Excuse
give
me,
a green
I'd
light...
like you to withdraw that comment, please.
Okay. Giving the green light to ceasefire now will give a green light to future terrorism and perpetual war. Free Gaza from Hamas and reject this disgraceful motion. Thank you.
Mr. Levitas, are you happy to take some questions? Are you happy to take some questions? Councillor Pandolfini.
Thanks for making the time to come in, Grant.
Thank you for giving me the time.
I just want to note that the point of that tweet was a critique, but The other question I have to you, there seems to be a conflation here on the criticism of Israel's government and Prime Minister or President Netanyahu and people of Jewish faith. Is it not possible to critique the Israeli government?
Absolutely, like it is any liberal democracy, of which Israel is the only one in the Middle East.
Yeah, I'll just follow up with that and say that
Councillor Olive.
Thanks for coming in, Grant.
Thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah, I mean, you say that this particular issue is not the domain of council. After October 7th, you know, sort of at Wallara Council, Waverley Council, this council, there were many resolutions that supported Israel's right to defend itself. So you don't think they should have come to council?
Who?
Is that correct?
Who shouldn't have come to council?
Those particular motions.
No, what I'm saying is local council responsibility is unifying communities, not dividing them.
But I mean, you said that this particular issue and the focus on Israel is nothing that should have come to council. But we were confronted with that in many forms, and so were various councils. It was not something that we could particularly avoid. And I'm asking you whether that should have come to council. That was my point.
Whether the people should have come to council.
No, I think you understand the gist of what
No,
I'm
I
saying.
don't actually. I have no idea what you're saying. I don't know who had the right to come to the council. I don't understand your question. Oh, you mean the issues? Is there?
I mean, there were motions at this council, there were motions at Waverley Council, there were motions at Wallara Council, which said council should support Israel's right to defend itself. Now, that's about, you know, precisely the Gaza conflict, which you are saying is not...
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, I get your question now, thank you. I think that the responsibility of local council, irrespective of if any motions are brought for or against an issue, should be looking at unifying. So instead of doing motions and dividing communities, I think we should have organising hugs on the beach for all communities. That's what I think.
Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, Grant, thanks for coming in. Can you just elaborate on the, is there a lot of angst in the Jewish community that's come around since motions like this and from other councils regarding these type of issues, the rise in angst in the community, please?
Thank you for your question. Apologies, I didn't thank the elders for their questions. If there was not a rise in anti-Semitism, I wouldn't be here on behalf of the community, my children, and the community at large. Anti-Semitism, we've seen a rise of 500% of anti-Semitism in our communities and interstate, across the world. I think a lot of people on the streets, while their cause and freedom of speech and movements is paramount in our society, but I think that causes get hijacked, and I think that's contributing to a massive increase in anti-Semitism, which is creating a lot of angst in our community. And I don't think that it's something that we can ignore or not fight back on.
Councillor D'Souza.
Thanks for coming, Grant. Grant, do you believe a ceasefire will bring peace to the Middle East?
Thanks for your question, Councillor D'Souza. Do I think a ceasefire would bring peace in the region? The simple answer is no. A ceasefire now would not. If you all go home tonight and you look up the definition of hudna, which is the definition in Islam for ceasefire, is a ceasefire or pause of fighting for a fixed amount of time, and typically is used for a regroup, regather for the next fight. We need to destroy Hamas and every single terrorist organization that has anti-Semitic ideologies. who want to destroy Israel and kill every Jew worldwide.
There are no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Levitas.
Madam Mayor, just before the next speaker, I just noticed there's a poster in the corner saying basically from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's a well-known anti-Semitic poster because basically it means that there's no place for Jews between the river and the sea. And as we all know, Israel between the river and the sea. Can I just ask that poster to be put down? Just put down. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'll respectfully ask everyone for... Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam. I'll just actually ask everyone, excuse me. I think to allow this meeting to proceed, I'd respectfully ask everyone of either side to perhaps sit down, put your posters down, and let's just get on with the meeting. I don't agree with the I do not take that as an endorsement for the state. Do not take that as an endorsement for the statement. It would be very helpful for everyone tonight to be able to get on with this and put your posters down, please. Please. Please put it down. Yeah, the flags are down, the signs are down, please.
I'm sorry, he's still holding it up. On the basis that it's offensive. Someone's worried about it.
I've already had all my family killed by the Holocaust. All my family.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'll have to adjourn the meeting. I'm asking everyone to put their signs down.
That's how it started. That's how the Holocaust started.
Question.
Councillor Luxford.
Can the gallery please be removed?
We'll now move to the next speaker. Speaking for Ms. Vivian Altman. Members of the gallery, please let us hear the next speaker. Thank you, Ms. Altman. You have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Viv, and I'm standing here as a proud Jewish woman. I am a member of Tzedek Collective, a group of Jewish people against Israel's occupation of Palestine. Many of us were born and raised in the eastern suburbs and still reside here today. For many Jews, we are born into Zionist thinking, and we are not given an alternative. I myself used to be a Zionist. Israel is an important place to me and my family. My Romanian mother and my Polish father met and got married in Israel in the 80s. My parents raised me to unconditionally and uncritically celebrate Israel, and I lived on a kibbutz in 2010. This blindsided me to the realities of daily lives of Palestinians. I lived my life with little awareness that just over 2-hour drive away from the kibbutz were 2 million Palestinians living in poverty and under the boot of the Israeli war machine. Today, the live streaming of the actions of the IDF against Palestinian civilians since October 7th have completely turned my world upside down. We have seen Israeli soldiers strip and torture young men and women. We have seen children as young as 3 years old arrested. We have seen white phosphorus bombs eat away at bodies of entire families. We have seen and heard the cries of children buried deep under rubble with no way to escape. We have seen hospitals, UN-designated safe zones, and refugee camps hit with pinpoint and targeted missile strikes. As a Jew, I believe anti-Semitism is at risk of losing its true meaning. The term is being weaponized and is being used as a shield to deflect any and all criticisms of the state of Israel and the subsequent actions of Israel's leaders and military. When I critique actions or policies of the Australian government, I am not being anti-Australian. So how can we deem critiques of the Israeli government as anti-Semitic? Zionism is an ideology. It is not a government, it is not a piece of land, and it certainly is not to be conflated with Judaism. It is important that we remain observant of this distinction. The conflation of Zionism and Judaism is extremely dangerous, especially for Jewish people. The Jewish diaspora is diverse and multicultural, and Jewish people challenging and critiquing Zionism and the state of Israel has existed well before 1948 and the birth of the Jewish state. As Jews, we cannot be reduced to a single monolithic voice. I know that I'm not alone when I say the actions of the Israeli government do not represent me as a Jew, and I deplore that this is being done in our name. I have experienced anti-Semitism in recent weeks, but this anti-Semitism hasn't come from Arabs, Palestinians, or the wider community. It has come from other Jews. My own loved ones have labelled me as a self-hating Jew and have even said that if I hate the state of Israel so much, I should convert to Islam and join Hamas. I have not had any interactions with anyone outside of the Jewish community that have been as hurtful as these kinds of comments. These comments are designed to use my proud Jewish identity as leverage to inflict maximum hurt. Therefore, there is no other way to describe these comments but as being anti-Semitic in nature. Finding a community of anti-Zionist Jews in the past few weeks, specifically Tzedek Collective, has actually helped me reconnect to my Jewish roots. I don't think I've ever felt more proud or connected to my Judaism at any other point in my life. I have a tattoo here on my arm in Hebrew. In Judaism, the quote is considered the golden rule. It translates to, whatever is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. All of Judaism depends on the ability to view another person as real as one views oneself. And we chant in the street, when we chant in the street, in our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. I feel that in my soul. When it comes to the role of local councils, we recognise that you do not have the power to enforce a ceasefire. We are not asking local councils to understand the nuanced history of the region or the intricacies of this conflict. We know you don't have the solutions to such a contentious situation. But as politicians and people in positions of power, you have a responsibility to advocate for oppressed people. And we as community members have a responsibility to show to our state and federal governments that we do not sit in silence while a genocide is unfolding. Right now is not the time to discuss semantics. Every 5 minutes in Gaza, someone is dying. The average age of those killed is 5 years old. In the time that I have spoken to you today, another Gazan is dead. We are asking you to listen to your community. While I am Jewish, I am pleading to you as a human. This is a humanitarian issue. I don't want to live in a world where we so easily dehumanize those that society has told us to treat as an other. So many of us, especially in this room, know how it feels to be othered from a community, to be outsiders.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, the time's been elapsed.
I ask the Speaker to conclude your speech. Thank you.
A ceasefire is the only common sense solution for peace. Don't buy into the propaganda for endless war.
Thank you. I'd ask the gallery to sit down, please, and we'll take some questions from the councillors. Thank you. Councillor Chappell.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I really appreciate you coming here today. I kind of have two questions. One, you were talking about your community here in the eastern suburbs, and I assume that's the community you're representing in asking council to stand up for you, because that's relevant, because we do keep getting told that there is only one opinion in a homogenous Jewish community, and my experience is that's not true. So I'd like to know what we can do to help that community feel safer. But also there's a lot of accusations that calling for a ceasefire is somehow anti-Semitic and about guaranteeing the destruction of Israel. Could you kind of tell me your thoughts on that?
From the river to the sea.
I think it's easy to get lost in the last 2 months and to ignore the last 75 years. And I think for anyone who claims that Hamas want to eradicate all Jews, they actually need to read the Hamas Charter. Have you read it?
Members of the gallery, let's just keep, it's not...
I think this is a clear
Thank you.
example of the treatment of Jews from other Jews. And
excuse me, members of the gallery and the speaker, excuse me. The code of meeting practice does not allow for a debate between members of the gallery and the speaker. Please allow the speaker to speak. We can take questions from the councillors. Thank you.
as I was saying, this is a humanitarian issue. We are humans sharing this planet. As I said, someone in Gaza is dying every 5 minutes, and the average age is 5. This is not a war on Hamas. This is a war on Palestinian people. And there are too many innocent civilians who are bearing the brunt of Israel's militarization and their occupation of Palestinians over the last 75 years.
Are there any further questions for the Speaker? Councillor De Souza.
Thank you for coming, Vivian. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Grant. Do you really believe a ceasefire right now would bring a lasting peace or even a peace to the Middle East?
I don't have a crystal ball and I cannot see into the future, but I don't think peace is going to be achieved with the endless bombing. How are we going to achieve peace? Through violence. The first step is a ceasefire.
Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do you believe there would be as many innocent Palestinians killed if they weren't used as human shields by Hamas?
I think that these moot points are, again, used as a distraction away from...
Please allow the Speaker to respond to the question.
Away from the realities of what the IDF is doing on the ground in Gaza right now. For a fact, it has been proven that Israelis use Palestinians as human shields.
If there are no further questions, we'll now move on to the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Surd.
Madam Mayor, could I move excuse me, can I speak now? Madam Mayor, could I move a procedural motion to move that the items that we've had speakers on be heard straight away?
Do I have a seconder? Councillor. I'll ask that person, if you would mind going and listening to the meeting outside, please.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, if this continues, I suggest we remove the gallery. No.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to move to... I'm going to put the procedural motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move on to NM 86/23, motion pursuant to notice of motion from Councillor Pandolfini, Sandgate Cottage. Councillor Pandolfini. Councillor Pandolfini, seconded by Councillor Nielsen.
Councillors, I'll just be super brief. I think that this document speaks for itself. Last year we did pass a motion. I know that there was a changeover in general managers at the time, but we have not received any report back regarding the possibility of Sandgate Cottage being returned to the council. We do know that the lease is up on the 30th of September 2025, which is of course not very long away. So I would like to again request that we receive a report to return it to the council. It's an important heritage building, and I've mentioned in here the fact that we have many arts organisations and artists in the area who are waiting and waiting for space. We have a beautiful space here. It is, in line with the purpose of the renewal of Randwick Junction. And so I urge everybody to please support this motion so that we can see what can be done to expedite the process. Thanks.
Councillor Nielsen is the second.
Thank you. I concur with all the points that Councillor Pandolfini's made, but I've emailed to Mr Kelly the correction. We need to add point C in the original motion, which was point 3 in the original motion I seconded. So it was Councillor Beach seconded Councillor Nielsen, the successful motion, and the date needs to be corrected just for correction. 26 July 2022 is the correct date of the original motion, all minor points. But I think the important point of including the point 3, which was in the original motion, is that it says could include small office space for council officers if this allowed for more flexible use of the property. And I think because all of us know, unfortunately, that a lot of our council spaces are often not used as much as we would like to see them used. Sometimes if there is a council officer there to let people in and out and carry on with very other intricacies, it does make the use of the premises that much better. That's why I think, and more effective, that's why I think including the point 3, which of course was in the original motion anyway, is also a way of us proceeding forward, and I would hope that Councillor Pandolfini is happy with those suggestions.
Councillor Hay.
I'd like to move an amendment, if I can ask Mr Kelly to bring it up. Councillors, within Randwick we've got Barrett House, Blenheim House, and we have the Newmarket Stables coming online. That's 3 other dedicated art spaces that are coming up.
Just point of order, that's not factually incorrect. That we do not have any of those things.
That is... Today,
right now, we do not have any of those things.
I'm sorry, firstly, that's not a valid point of order. Secondly, I said that we have the Newmarket Stables coming up as... Yeah.
You have your chance to...
Councillor Hay, please continue.
Thank you. Now, that is 3 dedicated art spaces within Randwick. Not Randwick, the LGA, not Randwick City, Randwick, the suburb. On top of that, we also have Randwick Town Hall, which is occasionally used for Randwick for art spaces, and we have the Margaret Martin Library, also within the suburb of Randwick. Not only that, we have the Ritz Cinema, we have every high school and primary school in the area occasionally does its own art exhibitions. Notably, of course, Blenheim House is about 100 metres away from Sandgate Cottage, as is the Margaret Martin Library. So...
This is all factually incorrect. It's 100 metres.
All speakers will be heard in silence.
Madam Mayor, we can't allow point of orders being used to discuss debate points.
Please proceed with your councillors.
Secondly, we have an existing tenant within that property, and we receive a substantial amount of money in rent. Now, I'm not going to say it, but it is an amount of money that you would expect to receive for a commercial lease within a business centre. Now, that is a lot of money, and we could do a lot of good with that. All the parks, all the swing sets we could replace. You name it, there is a lot of good we can do with that money, and we will be foregoing that, all for the purpose of adding a fourth dedicated art space within the suburb of Randwick, which I cannot support. And therefore, I urge people to support this amendment. Alex, do you want a second?
Councillor Pandolfini, do you accept the amendment?
I just say that it's not, I haven't proposed, I mean, I'm happy to accept that, but I haven't proposed for it to be an art space. Like a community space is not just art, but that's fine. But just so you're clear on that.
We'll now move to the amendment moved by Councillor Hay, seconded by Councillor. Is there a second, Luxford? Councillor Hay, do you wish to speak?
No more detail than what I've previously said.
Councillor Luxford, do you wish to speak?
Yeah. Basically that this amendment calling for us to wait for the report that has already been requested on the future of Sandgate Cottage, acknowledging that we do have some community spaces already within the area, and also acknowledging that Sandgate Cottage at the moment is a form of revenue to the council, and this should be incorporated into the report that we receive before we make any future decisions on Sandgate Cottage.
Can we put it, please?
We haven't had 2 for and 2 against. Councillor Chappell.
Thanks. I just want to briefly speak against the amendment. I think what the original motion from Councillor Pandolfini is seeking to do is to uphold a previous motion that Council has voted on and support, which is already for a report. And it's a report that's much broader. It's a report that looks into artistic but also community and cultural uses. And I would hardly say that in the Randwick LGA we have an overwhelming oversupply of community and cultural spaces. I know we struggle to, community groups struggle to find appropriate spaces for events. The concentration of those in Randwick, I think, is a simple historical artefact of having these beautiful historic buildings clustered in that as the town centre of our area. So I would urge councillors to vote against this and just uphold our previous motion and keep going with what we were planning to do here.
Thank you. Councillor Olive.
Yes, I'd like to speak against this amendment, and I'd just like to, cast everyone's mind to the spot and why the spot's such a vibrant, lively place and a unique place in all of Randwick, because the Ritz is there. It's a cultural centre, a cultural hub right in the middle of activity, and a lot's grown up around it, and that creates the area a valuable place, for people, a place that people want to go and visit. Now, we'd heard from Mr. Mark England before about what's valuable about Sandgate Cottage as a centre for creative or community. It's because it's in the hub, the centre of Randwick, and we can make Randwick just like that, a place which has a vibe, has a really great feel, and businesses want to be around there because because people want to go there and they have a diversity of interests. And so I think that just making this another uninteresting building is not the way to go. And so I'm pushing you not to vote for this amendment. Thank you.
If there's no further speakers, I'll now put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment by Councillor Hay, We'll go straight to a division, I think. We'll go straight to a division. All those in favour of the amendment moved by Councillor Hay, please raise your hand. Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza, all those.
Councillor Parker. Councillor Parker.
Councillor Parker.
Councillor Parker.
Councillor McCafferty.
And Councillor McCafferty. I'm sorry, but you must have your camera on. Councillor Parker, please put on your camera.
My camera is on, Madam Mayor.
We can't see you.
Madam Mayor, as far as I can see, it's turned on, and I can tell you that I'm voting for the amendment. I can see myself. I can see. Well, outside of leaving the meeting, my camera is on. I can take a photograph of it if you'd like and send it to you.
Yeah, you'll have to leave the meeting. I'm sorry, we cannot see you.
Okay, to confirm, I'm voting for. I'm voting for Councillor Hayes' amendment.
Councillor Parker, I'm just going to seek an advice from the General Manager.
I've just sent to the General Manager the advice that, as far as I'm concerned, the camera is on. I've just sent a photograph of it.
Okay, we'll accept it, Councillor Parker. We've got a problem here with our AV. We will do that vote again. All those in favour of the motion, of the amendment, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Said, Councillor
Parker.
Yep. Councillor D'Souza, Councillor Parker and Councillor McCafferty. All those against the amendment, Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive, Councillor Wilson and the Mayor. I declare the amendment carried. Now becomes the motion. Well put it. All those in favour? All those against? No. I declare the motion carried. Councillor Nielsen.
The corrections that I made in terms of the minutes, they're still relevant. Thank you.
Councillor Veitch, before you move on to the next item, I am going to leave and rejoin the meeting.
Okay. We'll now move on to NM 87/23, notice of motion from Councillor Pandolfini, call for permanent ceasefire in Gaza, moved by Councillor Pandolfini, seconded by Councillor Olive.
Okay, just confirming that you can see and hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just speak briefly to this motion? These thoughts and stats are a collection that others have generously shared. I just wanted to note the sentiment that this is not the business of local council, which seems to only be rolled out at specific times. In the past 2 years, the invasion of Ukraine has been brought to this council with the raising of the Ukrainian flag, plus motions for Independence Days for Greece and Israel have been put and their national flags raised on this town hall. We know that these flags do not represent a majority of the people in this community, but suddenly this is now not our remit. I will also say that this motion does not have a hidden meaning. I am and always are very clear in what I say and what I mean. It is not an anti-Semitic motion, it is not directed at Jewish people in Randwick, not in New South Wales, Australia, or who live around the world. This motion is calling for a permanent ceasefire, which, to be very clear, means both sides. It calls for the release of hostages taken by Hamas and the release of Palestinian administrative detainees. It calls for Palestinians to be able to live freely on their land. I will also be extremely... Can I please ask that the people in the audience do not interrupt me?
Please let the councillor speak in silence. Thank you.
I will always be extremely clear that there is no place for anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any form of hate speech or crime towards anyone on the basis of their sexuality, gender, race, or religion. I do not understand why in a so-called democratic country like ours, critiquing the Israeli government is called anti-Semitic. I'm talking about the administrations of these countries, including ours, including the US, and I'm talking about the behaviour of the IDF. It is not a secret message that I've drafted. People in Israel critique their government all the time. I want to reiterate that this council has addressed the actions of Hamas on the 7th of October. They have been condemned in this room, and we held a minute of silence. Since that meeting, we have seen the most horrific human rights and international law violations in Gaza, referred to this morning by Minister Husic, Labour Minister Husic, with Israel attacking not just Hamas, but more pointedly the 2.2 million Palestinian people, restricting their access to clean water, food, electricity, medicine, and fuel. 18,000 Palestinians have been killed and counting since the beginning of October, and thousands more are trapped under the rubble. I bring this motion to the floor because we are witnessing live on our phones and broadcasts in real time a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. Every single aid organisation has stated very, very clearly and desperately that there is categorically no effective protection of Gazan civilians. We know that the majority of these civilians are children because we know statistically that half the population are children. Since the 7th of October, Israel has bombed over 20 hospitals, 66 mosques, 3 historical churches, 104 cultural landmarks, refugee camps, government buildings, residential buildings, schools, and UNRWA sites. The World Health Organization has documented 203 attacks on healthcare that have led to at least 22 fatalities and 59 injuries of health workers on duty. Innocent civilians in Palestine, in their thousands, are being killed, and the US has used its veto power, weapons and money continue what is happening. So it is clear that we need to use all of the tools at our disposal to protect the lives of civilians and promote human rights, justice and peace for all. One such tool is the pressure that councils like Randwick can apply as direct representatives of their constituents by passing motions such as these. Councillors, I appeal to your conscience, morality and humanity to back this motion. Councils are powerful and can affect change and make a difference by exerting pressure as direct representatives of their constituents. Finally, I would like to mention a Palestinian academic, Rifat Alaria. An airstrike killed him last week, his siblings and nephews and nieces. Rafit co-founded a youth-led organisation, We Are Not Numbers, telling stories about Palestinians. Just a few weeks ago, I watched a video where he said, with a wavering voice, almost in tears, "It is very dark, it is very bleak, and there is no way out. What should we do? I am an academic. The toughest thing I have is a pen. The only thing I'll be able to do is throw that at the IDF. We are helpless." Rafid was an academic and a man of words, and I'm going to finish with his poem, just as Councillor De Souza often does. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child, somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale.
Councillor Olive.
On the 23rd of October, I called on Council to support an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza conflict as by way of amendment. Council voted against this. I said that 1,400 Israelis had been killed by Hamas on October 7th, a figure that has been slightly revised down. I said that more than 1,000 children had been killed in Gaza by the Israeli military between October 7th and the 23rd of October. According to Al Jazeera, this figure has increased to 7,730 as of yesterday, more than sevenfold. The total number of Palestinian deaths now stands at 18,275. On October 23, more than 1 million Palestinians were forced to move from the north of Gaza to the south because that was where the Israeli military told them they would be safe. Now the Israeli military are attacking southern Gaza. Where do these people go? The only bright light in the conflict has been a temporary ceasefire when the killing stopped and 110 of the 240 hostages were released. We must support this motion and urge the Australian government to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, or we will not have done all we can do. We must support this motion because the next time is too late.
Councillor Hay.
I'd like to amend the motion. Can I ask Mr. Kelly to bring up the text of the amendment? Councillors, it's effectively written here. We shouldn't be debating international politics. We should be focusing on what matters to the residents of Randwick City. And essentially, I move an amendment that we do not take a position on international conflicts, that as you can see by the biggest crowd, we have inflamed tensions in the community by discussing this. And let's go back to our core business. Thank you.
Councillor Pandolfini, do you accept the amendment? I will call for silence in the gallery, please.
No, I do not.
Okay, we'll now move to the amendment as moved by Councillor. Please, please. We will have to remove the gallery otherwise. I would really like everyone to be able to stay. This meeting must be conducted in silence. I will wait. Please, members of the gallery, if you cannot contain yourselves, you can go and listen to the meeting on audio link outside. Are you happy to stay and listen to the meeting? Thank you. Councillor Hay, we're now discussing the amendment. Thank you.
As written, the amendment speaks for itself.
Councillor Rosenfeld, is the seconder, do you wish to speak?
Yes, please. Firstly, this issue is not, as we all know, it's not the remit of local government. However, as obviously it's been allowed in the business paper, I still want to give my view. There cannot be a permanent ceasefire with regards to Israel's war on Hamas until Hamas is completely destroyed. Hamas is a terrorist group aimed at the total destruction of the State of Israel. On October 7th, they killed approximately 1,400 Jewish people. As I've said previously, I do feel for innocent Palestinians that have been caught up. However, it must be remembered that Hamas use these persons as human shields by basing their operations near their main community centres such as hospitals, etc. When the Israelis drop leaflets to tell civilians to leave, as they will be targeting their areas, Hamas forbid them to leave. Indeed, one of the more telling pieces of news on the war was seeing innocent Palestinians come out with white flags. That all said, I have no issue with future pauses in fighting, even though the Israelis often have to release more prisoners. I'd also like to mention that tabling this notice of motion has added to the great anxiety in the Jewish community in the LGA, and anti-Semitism is as bad as we've ever seen. So I fully support the motion, and it's not the remit of local government, and if we've seen it's inflamed tensions, so I fully support the amendment.
Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I support this amendment and for several reasons. The first of which has been mentioned previously in this debate is that clearly the entirety of this motion is outside of the remit of local government in relation to the type of thing which those of us who swore an oath both to uphold the Local Government Act, but more importantly, to represent the community which we have and are duty bound to support. I would like to echo the sentiments raised by Councillor Rosenfeld in relation to that there is real and palpable fear, concern, and emotional upset amongst our community right here in Randwick. I have had individuals, as I've mentioned in previous debates, who for the first time in their lives feel that they are unsafe amongst and in their community. And why I cannot support this particular motion but do support this amendment is it clarifies that our role as councillors is to unite our community rather than to divide it. And I think that this rectifies the motion, which at its heart, while well-intentioned, sought to divide our community. I couldn't in good conscience say that it would save a single life, this particular motion, but what it would do and what this amendment seeks to rectify is the fact that the motion as drafted would cause harm to those in our community right here at Randwick who we have a responsibility to look after.
Councillor Parker,
I think that
Councillor Parker, I would like to call a point of order. I'm not sure that you're able to demonstrate that this would cause harm.
Madam Mayor, how can that be a point of order?
Ask you to continue, thank you.
Okay. In continuing my remarks, the reason as to why...
Councillor said you'll have to wait until Councillor Parker concludes his speak. I know Councillor Parker has not finished speaking yet.
Okay. The reason as to why I support this amendment is because it rectifies what I think is the deficiency at the heart of this particular motion. We are debating this in a context of rising anti-Semitism and rising Islamophobia across our community. What the motion would seek to do is to present one portrait of a set of international events which are quite acrimonious locally. Why that is important to recognise in terms of that it could cause great distress and harm to the community is it sets up a permission structure to allow the criticism of institutions locally which have an obligation to represent their constituents and to look after their constituents, including their well-being, and to take a position which would run quite contrary to the interests of those we seek to represent. It is for these particular reasons that I cannot support the motion. It gives me great concern and why I think the amendment, speaking directly to it, is a far superior form of words. We've seen the amount of division out there in the community. There is great concern for people's safety. I can only imagine the tension which is present inside of the room, and motions such as this and the amendment which seeks to rectify it, at least seeks to lower the temperature, and it is for these reasons that I support the amendment and oppose the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. We'll now move to Councillor Chappell and then a question from Councillor Said. Do you want your question?
Madam Mayor, just my question is that can the Mayor call a point of order to the relevant officer?
Through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what the Mayor was doing was actually calling the councillor to order in the opinion of the chairperson that felt that there needed to be called to order. That's what the Mayor was doing.
Councillor Chappell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's an argument that this is somehow beyond the remit of council, the substantive motion here, which is writing a letter to the federal government, which I find honestly quite an extraordinary assertion, given every single council meeting we pass at least one motion to write a letter to another level of government. It's a thing we do. We do it on planning matters, we do it on environmental matters, we do it on social issues. The idea that we have never gone into international things is also preposterous. I have seen Councillor Parker, when he was the former mayor, wrapped in the Ukrainian flag following a motion about what's happening in Ukraine. I have seen the Liberal councillors on this council twice bring forward motions about this war. They have brought that into this chamber. The idea that it is divisive is preposterous. What you are saying is it's only divisive when the Greens do it. And that is a ridiculous statement. I mean, the idea that somehow ignoring our community is going to lead to more cohesion. You've all got the emails from people. You've seen the people in the room. There are people who care deeply about a ceasefire. I'm one of them. There are people who are watching live what is happening, and we care. We see other human beings. We care about them. We see children. We see these poor reporters at the front lines learning of the death of their children and their partners. We see humanitarian workers dying in numbers that are genuinely unprecedented. We see the children. We always see the children. Councils are doing this as well. Let's be clear. Canterbury Bankstown not just passed a motion for a ceasefire, but they are flying the Palestinian flag because they listen to their community. Wollongong passed a motion. City of Sydney passed a motion. Maribek, Dandenong, Maribyrnong, they all passed motions on this. There is precedent across the country. There's precedent across the world. I recall seeing a mayor in a small city in Spain standing up on this and making proud statements. It is our role to govern for our community. They are telling us this is important to them. And I think putting forward a piss-weak amendment like this to try and strip out an extremely reasonable call for a ceasefire, not a surrender of anybody, just both sides stop shooting, get in some medicine, get in some food, save some lives, having a humanitarian approach, and end the occupation, let's not mention. In this chamber, we represent our whole community, and a large proportion of our community are telling us they care about a ceasefire. The majority of the Australian population is in favour of a ceasefire. There's been polling done on this. That is only becoming more and more and more the case as they see the atrocities and they ask, how many children are enough? When will it stop? Because how do you destroy Hamas by orphaning 25,000 Palestinian children? How do you destroy by creating pain and destruction and denying hope to people? It can't be done. They bombed the courts, they bombed the parliament, they bombed an archive last week. If you are trying to destroy a civil society and allow organisations to take hold who are not going to talk to you, this is how you do it. You bomb their institutions out of existence. You kill their children. I'd like to say today particularly, I've really appreciated all the emails from many of the people, including in this room, from Imran and Ali and Angela and all of the others who have taken the time to talk to their councillors. We do hear you. I don't think it's going to be enough, but we're doing our best. All we can all ever do, anyone in this room, anyone in this council, is use what we have to do what we can to end an atrocity that is happening in front of us. This is the test. This is the test of our time. This is the what side would you have been on in the Holocaust? This is legitimately what's happening now. There are people being murdered. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people being murdered.
I'd like to ask the gallery to remain silent. Thank you. Councillor Chappell.
The murders are continuing. This happened for 75 years. People got taken off their country.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order, Madam Mayor.
I could not hear the point of order. Councillor Chappell, I'll ask you to be seated while we hear the point of order. Councillor Parker.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Councillor Chappell compared what was occurring in Palestine as the Holocaust of the times. That is a high. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chappell has withdrawn the comment. Councillor Chappell, please conclude your remarks. Thank you.
I'd just like to end by thanking the members of the Jewish community, particularly in our area, who have come and spoken to us tonight and who have stood at the protests alongside members of the Palestinian and Arab communities in Australia. I see now just how much bravery that takes, and I am inspired and in awe.
I would please ask the gallery to remain silent. We'll now move to Councillor Said. Councillor Said. All speakers will be heard in silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, our role in council exists to serve the local community, which places motions regarding overseas conflicts outside our remit. Councillors are not experts on foreign policy, nor do we possess the relevant information, knowledge or experience to issue calls to the federal government to take a position on foreign policy. Madam Mayor, you have handled your tenure as Mayor so far this year with aplomb, visiting schools, charitable groups and First Nation communities. Unfortunately, a motion like this, which causes angst among councillors, divides the community and destroys the multicultural fabric of the LGA, can ruin that whole tenure. Other councillors in neighbouring LGAs I've spoken to who have already received exactly the same motion, and who voted against it, have already starting to receive a backlash of horrible emails and social media. Their decisions, please, Madam Mayor, please don't let this motion define your tenure. In conclusion, can I say from this point on, any motions that are brought forward in a similar vein, I will not debate and I will abstain from voting. Thank you.
Councillor Luxford. A question from Councillor Olive, briefly.
Just part A of the amendment to the General Manager, does that tell one, sort of, can that constrain what council can bring or talk about in the future, or is that a redundant part of that amendment? Is it unconstitutional in that it's telling councillors what they can and can't do in terms of what they can bring to council?
Through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is lawful.
Councillor Luxford.
Yeah, I cannot support the motion as it is, and I support the amendment. I do not believe it is appropriate for local government to involve itself in foreign affairs. The federal government is best placed to make decisions of this nature. Situation in the Middle East is complex and there is a lot of history. My personal views on foreign policy are not relevant to the exercise of my civic functions as a councillor under the Local Government Act. I believe council involving itself in matters such as this distracts from our core task. I have foreign policy beliefs and I will not be vilified for them by expressing them in this chamber. They are my personal beliefs and I hold them strongly. And as we have heard, other councillors who have expressed their beliefs or voted in one way or another in other councils are now receiving hate mail. My job in the community is to unite this community, not to divide it. Motions such as this do the opposite. Those who seek to bring them do us all a disservice. It is impossible to absorb the harrowing images from the ongoing conflict with anything less than distress and horror. We have a large Jewish population. It is impossible not to recognise the distress that the terrible events of October 7 would have had on our community. 1,200 Israeli lives lost and over 120 hostages. In Palestine, 15,000 Palestinians have been killed, including over 5,000 children, as reported by UNICEF. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens by the day. Randwick Council moving motions will not save a single one abroad, but what it will do is hurt those here in a context of rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Calling for a ceasefire would be interpreted in a million different ways by Randwick residents. And for what good? I can think of none. But where people are saying they feel unsafe, I can think of plenty of harm. For those reasons, I oppose the motion.
Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There were two councillors who aren't with us anymore, and I miss them so dearly. They would say council business and decision-making should revolve around roads, rates and rubbish. Now, I thought they were small-minded when they said that, and even insular in their thinking, but how true it is today. I've heard others say, and I support the amendment, this is outside the scope of council. It should not have been brought here. But let's add a bit of context to what we're debating about and about the ceasefire. The quarrel with the Arabs is not about a piece of land or territory. The problem is that Hamas refuses to accept and believe the right of the Jewish people to exist at all. They want to eradicate the Jewish nation by whatever means possible. That includes terrorist acts that occurred on the 7th of October when women, children and the elderly were raped, murdered, babies' heads decapitated. And in my view, they would, if they had access to nuclear weapons, they would have used
The Speaker will be heard in silence, but
destroy.
Councillor D'Souza, we are speaking to the amendment.
Yes, I'm
to
speaking to the
Councillor
amendment.
Hayes' amendment. I would ask you respectfully
but I need to add a bit of
to
context.
restrain your comments to Councillor Hayes'
Okay.
amendment.
Okay. So the point I was making is a ceasefire would have little effect because the aim of these radicals is to destroy Western civilization, not just the destruction of Israel. Peace or even a ceasefire will never come to fruition if parties to the negotiations have such toxic, bigoted and racist views to eradicate the Jewish people. The Jews, however, have a secret weapon in their struggle with the Arabs and will always triumph because they have no other place to go. This is our land. This is the land God gave to us. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Olive.
Can we put it?
Councillor Olive. Councillor Olive already has the floor. He'd already stood, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to, speakers around this horseshoe have said that that this kind of issue should not be brought to council. It's not in the remit of council. But I'm shocked by the reinvention of history here, that it wasn't that long ago that Councillor Rosenfeld brought a similar motion and now can't remember doing that or some such thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, you know, sort of, other councillors who've expressed a similar view voted for that motion enthusiastically. You know, sort of, and that's around, you know, sort of this particular conflict. So, you know, sort of, I just don't understand the rationale and the trying to lay it, you know, sort of the Greens' feet for some reason, that we are the ones trying to bring some international perspective here where it's not due. When, you know, sort of that we were not the ones that initially raised these particular types of motions. So I would just like to add that as a way of speaking against this amendment, but also as a way of clarifying what has occurred over the period here.
Can we put it, please?
There's been a request to put it by Councillor Burr, seconded by Councillor Rosenfeld. All those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried.
Aye.
We'll now we'll go straight to a division. All those in favour of Councillor Hayes, the Hay-Rosenfeld amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Parker, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza. All those against? All those against? Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive and the Mayor. I declare the amendment lost. We will now, it now becomes carried. I declare the amendment carried. Apologies. We will now move to the motion. Does anyone wish to speak? I will put it. We'll move straight to a division. All those in favour of the motion, Councillor Hay, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Parker, Councillor McCafferty, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Said, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza. All those against, Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive and the Mayor. I declare the motion carried. We'll have a 5-minute adjournment. We will come back at we'll come back at 1:45. now resume the meeting at 7:47. Thank you. We'll now move to the Mayoral minutes. I'll go to MM 63/23 Oral History Project recording La Perouse Elders.
Can I just note for the meeting, for the minutes purposes, that Councillor Parker's not in attendance any longer?
Thank you, Councillor Chappell. Councillors, I'll take this as read. I would like to make possibly a short amendment. This is a call for a report to conduct some oral history recordings with some very important elders in the La Perouse community. It has been brought to my attention since the motion was written that there are some people there who are quite ill, and that there may be a requirement to actually do one of those recordings before March. So I'd like to add a point C, I suppose, to the motion that if council officers recommend that a recording take place before the report comes back in March, that that can proceed. Councillor said.
Madam Mayor, I've got no objection to this, but actually I thought we actually already started it. If we have started it, does that mean we can do this quickly? If you know what I mean. I've got a
I think there's been, I'll put it through to the relevant officer. Thank you. Katie Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor, you're correct that council officers have been informally recording histories of elders. However, I think what this seeks to do is formalise that to have it accessible for the community.
If there's no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? All against? I declare that carried. We now move to MM 64/23, financial assistance and donations. There's a few small requests that have come in. This is the amount that was requested. If there is no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? I declare that carried. MM 65/23, congratulations to Kelly Nolan from Maroubra Saints Junior Football Club on winning the 2023 BHB Community Coach of the Year. This is a really significant accolade. We know we have a really substantial sporting community in Randwick, and I think this is kind of due recognition for Kelly Nolan and the work that she has done with the club. So I commend the motion. Councillor Chappell.
I just want to briefly speak in favour of the motion. I played with Kel at the UTS Bats, and she is a stalwart of the women's game in Sydney and has played for many, many years, and is an extremely reliable pocket. But she is also a coaching kind of backbone of junior AFL for women in Sydney, which is an increasingly popular code. So I just want to commend this to the Chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Chappell. If there's no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. MM 66/23, congratulations to the La Perouse netball team, champions of the 2023 Koori Netball Tournament. This is an amazing team. I take the motion as read. I hope we can write a letter to the team and congratulate them, and hopefully we can get a little bit more recognition for their achievement and some ongoing support perhaps in the next season. If there's no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. MM 67/23, 3rd of December, supporting events and campaigns for International Day of People with Disability. Councillors, this is obviously, 20% of the Australian population lives with a disability. We know it can have profound effects. Some disabilities are quite visible, others just really aren't, and people can live with many hidden disabilities as well. I'm proud that Council has, a disability inclusion action plan, which is hopefully in the process of being implemented. And the team, the community development team, does a lot of work to support people with disability in our LGA. And you may be aware that coming up on the 17th of December is the All Abilities Fun and Fitness Day. I think that's at the Randwick Community Park. Thank you, Environment Park. So I hope people can support that as well. Councillor Rosenfeld?
Yes, fully support. Also going to mention that both Councillor Hay and myself a couple of weeks ago went to an event the Liberal Party put on, which was a panel for young people with the disability or with families with disability in State Parliament House. That was chaired by MLC Natasha McLaren-Jones, who's Shadow Minister for Disabilities. And we were told by Natasha that it's important that local government do play a part as well as state and federal in disabilities. And we also let the room know what our council has done in that area as well, which they were most appreciative.
Thank you, Councillor Rosenfeld. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to MM 68/23, passing of Surf Lifesaver Horst Menzel. Council sends its deepest condolences to the Menzel family on the passing of Horst and to the South Maroubra Surf Lifesaving Club. We sent flowers to the funeral recently. We will observe a minute's silence and then I'll move to some discussion. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Said.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to commend you on this Mayoral minute and just to make the remarks that Horst Menzel was a greatly respected and loved member of the South Maroubra Club. He also passed away, unfortunately, very suddenly, doing what he loved, swimming at the beach. So thank you very much for doing this, and his effect and his legacy will live on in South Maroubra.
Thank you, Councillor Said. If there's no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. MM 69/23, congratulations to Gajaga Foundation on the Institute of Architects Reconciliation Award 2023. Look, this is a really significant award. Council congratulates the Gajaga Foundation on winning the Australian Institute of Architects Reconciliation Award 2023 and acknowledges the work being done by Gajaga in empowering the La Perouse Aboriginal community. So last week Gajaga was one of 3 recipients to be awarded this award, and yeah, it's a very significant achievement for a highly respected group within our LGA, and I commend the motion. If there's no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We'll now move on to the rest of the agenda. Actually, hang on for a moment. Is there any urgent business? There's no urgent business. We'll move on to the items in the agenda in seriatim. Just give us a moment. Yep. CP 51/23, expressions of interest for community representatives and reappointment of alternate chair and expert members for the Randwick Local Planning Panel. Councillor Chappell. CP 52/23, classification of land under the Local Government Act 1993, 3-7 Lexington Place, Maroubra. Councillor Rosenfeld. CS 59/23, proposed community partnership with Randwick Netball Association. Councillor Chappell. CO 74/23, draft submission, Local Government Remuneration Tribunal. Councillor Chappell. CO 75/23 risk appetite statement endorsement. Councillor Burst. That's all. Do we have a mover? Councillor said. Seconded. Sorry. Oh, there was nothing in challenge. Sorry, I thought there was one. All right. Thank you, councillors. We will now move to CP 51/23 expressions of interest for community representatives and the reappointment of alternate chair and expert members for the Randwick Local Planning Panel. And that was Councillor Chappell.
Just moving as per the business paper, but just a question through the relevant officer about the nomination process, if you need us to do that now, or we can do that after the meeting.
Through to the relevant officer, Mr. Kiriakou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation does require councillors to nominate the councillors that they wish to be part of the interview panel, so that the General Manager can then be delegated the decision to appoint those new community reps.
Councillor Chappell, did you wish to? Councillor said has a question.
Just to the relevant officer. So does that mean, can we nominate the parties at least tonight and then give the names later? Like 2 from each or 3 from each, whatever we nominate? That can be done tonight and the names can be supplied at another time. Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Chappell? Okay. Councillor Chappell, do you wish to nominate the amount of speakers, please? From each party, there's 5. The parties, apologies. Yeah. No. Well,
Can I just ask what the previous composition was, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was 1 from each ward.
Councillor Olive, yes, through the General Manager.
So there was no selection on the basis of parties last time to the General Manager?
Through to Mr. Kiriakou.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's my recollection, because there was independence within the makeup of the council, that there was one independent as well, but representation from each of the parties.
If I may speak from the chair, may I put a suggestion, which would be 1 Labor, 1 Liberal, 1 Green, 1 Independent, and the Mayor.
Can I move it that way, please?
Thank you. If there's no further speakers, I'll put it. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. We now move to CP 52/23 classification of land under the Local Government Act 1993, 3 to 7 Lexington Place, Maroubra, moved by Councillor
Challenge.
Can't read my writing. Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, just as per the business paper, and I just want to express how important it is that we do have more social housing. It's a great initiative in our LGA and in our central ward. and fully accept the recommendation for operational land, because that's the best way to go forward.
Seconded by Councillor Burst. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Burst? Is the seconder?
I reserve the right.
Councillor Chapel.
Thank you. Just a question through on this, just regarding the operational land classification as being preferable to community land. Is that primarily so that a social housing provider could be entered into with an agreement on the site, or is there some other objective that we're seeking with that classification, please?
Through to the relevant officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council resolved many years ago to designate affordable housing as operational land, and that's purely for the purpose to be able to ensure that it is managed effectively over time, so that if council wants to change its makeup of the housing, it has the opportunity to sell that land. If it was community land, it would not be able to be sold without a planning proposal to rezone the land. So it allows council that flexibility to change its portfolio or determine where it needs to reinvest in that land through partnerships with community housing providers, for example. So it is sort of a tool by which to be able to sort of manage that that portfolio over a longer period and look at the life cycle of an asset too over a period of time. That asset may need to be renewed and then changed into potentially another investment which provides the same sort of level of affordable housing.
Are there any further speakers? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We now move to CS 59/23, proposed community partnership with Randwick Netball Association, moved by Councillor, challenged by Councillor Chapel.
Just moving as per the business paper, please.
Is there a seconder? Councillor said. Any further speakers? Councillor Chapel.
Just briefly to speak to it, I think it's really inspiring to have council entering into a proper partnership with a women's code, as netball still is in our area, particularly in recognition of just the sheer number of women and girls who play netball and the long running of our netball association in our area. So I think this is entirely fitting.
Thank you, Councillor De Souza.
Quickly say, look, it's a wonderful organisation, things that occur there. There's a lady called, I think it's Jennifer Morrissey or Jenny Morrissey. She's a great leader, and it's inspiring to see women like her leading that. All the women, all the coaches, all the netball people are very inspiring. When I did my Salvation Army, they gave appeal. They gave me permission to collect on the day, and I got to meet a lot of them. And I never forget their kindness or their generosity. And then if they can be kind and generous to the salvos, they're all right by me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, I support what's on the paper.
If there are no further speakers, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We move on to CO 74/23, draft submission, Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, challenged by Councillor Chapel.
Just moving as per the business paper, please.
Is there a seconder? Councillor said. Is there any discussion? Councillor Chapel.
Oh, I did just want to speak briefly to it, and in particular to the amendments from Councillor Parker, which I think really do draw out the sheer scope of the role and what we are expected to do and how it compares to other jurisdictions. In this case, I think we've compared it to the NT, etc. And just commend all the councillors in the room for the work that we do with a significantly smaller budget.
Thank you, Councillor Chapel. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? That's against. I declare that carried. We now move on to CO 75/23. Risk appetite statement endorsement, challenged by Councillor Burst.
I think it's important for any council to have a risk appetite. Without a risk appetite, you go hungry. Yes, I'd like to move it as per the motion,
Seconded by councillor
as
Chapel.
per the recommendation. A council with no risk appetite is a council that goes hungry. It's important that we look to be progressive and challenge ourselves, challenge our resources, to look at doing things differently where we can, and to improve things for our community. So we need to have a risk appetite, or we go backwards. Thank you.
Councillor Chapel is the seconder. If I may have the indulgence of the room to speak, I'd like to thank Claire Baggett for all of your assistance, all of the work you have done putting this together and running the workshop with the councillors at the weekend back in October. So thank you very much. If there is no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Actually, now moving on to the notices of motion, we'll move to NM 83/23. Notice of motion from councillor Nielsen, waiving of fees for Clovelly Senior Citizen Centre. Councillor Nielsen.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. I don't think I need to explain anything else as long as you all have read your business papers, which I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you were as surprised as I was to find out that this worthy group were no longer going to be able to be accommodated at Barrett House. That we could understand, but the fact that there hadn't been a suitable local venue organised for them to move to, and they have reached out, found what would be suitable, which is nearby, which is the Clovelly Senior Citizen Centre, and so it's just that we waive the fees for them, and that will help bring them in line with council support, which is provided to their South Coogee branch. Note council hosts the South Coogee branch of the Organic Buyers Group free each Thursday at the Randwick Sustainability Hub. So I just hope you'll all support the motion and support this very worthy group.
Councillor Pandolfini is the seconder.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this motion. It's a fantastic group, and also it is fantastic to be noting how expensive and difficult it is for not-for-profits and groups to access our centres, and I hope that we do continue to ensure that people can use them for these important services. So I very much will be supporting this motion, and I hope everyone can. Thanks.
Councillor Chapel. If there's any further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried. We move to NM 84/23, notice of motion from Councillor Chapel, Shark Management Surveys.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is basically just, I think we all recall the briefing we got many months ago from the Department of Primary Industries, where they took us through some of the data that they had, and then they said, we're going to give this to you so that a decision can be made, and they still have not provided us the data. I'm not proposing we make any further decisions, but I do think it's fairly extraordinary that the state government, came in with a big commitment about providing us with data, which we helped them collect. We promoted all these surveys on our council channels because we understood we'd be getting the information back so we can understand what our residents want in terms of shark management, what's important to them, and we haven't got it. So this is just motion to recognise that and see if we can get that data sometime, in the next year.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen.
Yes, I was flabbergasted to find out that work had been done, but no results forthcoming. And I think it's incredibly important that we're all provided with the information, because then further decisions can be made. But I would also just suggest we also write, as point C, we're writing to the New South Wales Premier and Minister for Agriculture in West New South Wales, also to the Honourable Penny Sharp, MLC Minister for Environment. I think that would be a good addition to this motion.
Councillor Rosenfeld.
Okay, I'd like to propose an amendment which I sent through to Mr. Kelly. So I'm basically adding C, and in C, I basically want it to be noted that at this time, Randwick Council residents do still support keeping shark nets at the beaches where they are currently used in the LGA, which I'm getting that feedback around the LGA. I'm happy to support A and B because I do agree that we do need the government has its duty to release this. It's but I just want to add C to that, to this amendment. Make this amendment and move to the motion. Oh, yes, I do support Councillor Nielsen's amendment as well.
Councillor Chappell, do you accept the amendment? Councillor Chappell, no. Thank you. Councillor Hay, you would like to second the amendment. We'll now move on to the amendment. Councillor Rosenfeld, do you wish to speak?
Just what I just said, more or less.
Councillor Hay?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Kelly for adding Nielsen's amendment in there. Yeah, look, I'm all in favour of receiving the information from the survey, and by all means, it is the current position of that we keep the shark nets. I think that that's what the community wants and expects, and that's how we should be voting. Thank you.
Councillor Chappell.
Speaking to why I don't accept the amendment, the point of the data is that we don't know what our residents think, so I think it would be very premature to tell them what they think. The shark nets are there for this season, like that is a decision that has already been made by the state government, and I would not like to put forward a motion that says we already know what's in the data that we don't have. So I think we should vote against the amendment and just go with the motion as originally proposed and foreshadowed.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Olive.
Yes, I'm against the amendment, basically along the same lines, because I don't think that conversations with a few residents is sufficient data or research to be able to make a statement like that. So, I think that we should wait until we have actually seen the survey.
Can we put it?
There's been a call to put it. I'll put it. We'll put the amendment moved by Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded by Councillor Hay. All those in favour? All those against? No. I declare the amendment lost. There's been a call for a division. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. Councillor Hay, Councillor Rosenfeld, Councillor Burst, Councillor D'Souza and Councillor McCafferty. All those against? Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Luxford, Councillor Chappell, Councillor Olive, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Said, and the Mayor. I declare the amendment lost. We'll now move back to the motion. Are there any further speakers on the motion? I just put it. We'll move straight to a division. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Pandolfini, Councillor... It's unanimous. Thank you. We now move to NM 85/23, notice of motion from Councillor Said, disc golf at Cromwell Park, North Malabar. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just be quick. There's a group of residents around Malabar who actually accept people from all over the LGA. There's pre-COVID, during COVID, and still to this day for years, they've been playing what they call a disc golf, which is just basically a frisbee, and you throw it around. There's a marked golf course at North Cromwell Park, and the aim is to get as close as to the pin by your frisbee. They realise that this can be annoying if there's people around, so what they'd like to do is bring back a report to legitimise places and areas they should do it in, and it's been going on for a long time. They've been asking me to do this. I think they've even written to council officers, and they've been begging for us to at least talk to them and trial it and see how it works. And so I thought it's about time that we start supporting the residents in some sort of different ideas that gets people outdoors and celebrating our parklands. So I hope you endorse this.
Thank you. Councillor Burst is the seconder.
Anything that will get our community out in the open spaces and green spaces and doing activity is a great thing.
Councillor Chappell.
I rise to support the motion. It's great. I love the disc golf course. I've never played it, but it's very cute. What I would just say, though, is that in doing this, I'd love if council officers could consider the fact that there is a very desirable running path that goes round the corner of that park. which is currently just an informal track. And I think obviously in formalising this would be desirable to not get in the way of that, because I think that may lead to poor outcomes.
Councillor Hay. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Yeah. Oh no, there's Councillor Parker. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Luxford. I note that Councillor Parker, and seconded by Councillor Sett. I note Councillor Parker has emailed to say that another councillor is free to move this motion. Councillor Luxford as the mover.
I think the motion there just speaks for itself, that we just consider distributing any remaining funds to existing community gardens to assist them along the way.
Councillor Sett as the seconder. Reserve your right. Councillor Chappell, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I just have a question, which is just the phrasing on there. It says council consider distributing all or a portion of funds, and just through to the relevant officer, kind of what process do we envisage that setting up? Like, do we divide it equally, or like how do we, just because I don't want it to seem like we have a favourite garden and somebody writes a letter kind of thing, but I'd love to know kind of how we do this in a good way.
Through to the Director of Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have 3 sponsored effective community gardens across the local government area, of which this is one. Currently in the environmental levy budget, in the current year, there's 32,000 allocated to future community gardens. We haven't had any applications this financial year, so there is funds to support them. We'd probably need to reach out to all 3 and see what their needs are. So whilst we support gardens in their establishment, we don't necessarily support them on their ongoing upkeep, which is what this is about. So.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Olive.
Yeah, just another question, please. Would it ever be considered that the funds would roll over, hopefully for new gardens as well, so that there'll be more money for new gardens?
Mr. Frangopoulos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The environment levy is a restricted fund, so it's always rolled over until spent.
So, and follow-up question. So that means that the money this year normally would be because there were no applications. That would have been rolled over for the next year as well, and additionally added to the allocation next year. Is that the sort of process, or?
Mr. Frangopoulos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, we're only halfway through the financial year, Councillor, so time will tell. If there's any funding left over, it goes back to the environment levy reserve, and council officers will recommend a way forward in terms of the future spend.
If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Councillors will now move into confidential session. For those members of the public listening in via audio link, we moved Director of Community and Culture Report number CC32/23, Community Services Award 2023 to 24, Council resolved as per the business papers. Councillors, thank you very much and to all the staff. It's the final meeting for the year. I'd like to thank everyone for engaging in the very many different debates on all the different issues affecting our community over this past 12 months. It's certainly been a lot going on with there's been elections, world conflict, so many different issues happening in our community. But I know every one of you has been there to provide that support and leadership. I'd also very much like to thank the General Manager and all of the staff for the very hard work that you do, and just express, I'd like to, hopefully the councillors will join with me in expressing our appreciation for everything that you've done throughout the year. Thank you very much. I now declare the meeting closed at 8:25 p.m.